Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. This is technically not just another video. This is Comics Today, and this is a new segment that I am starting here on the channel. And I am very excited about this one. I will tell you that I'm very excited about this because this has been something that has been on my mind for quite some time. It is a concept, a show that I've been noodling for a while. And so I'm very pleased to finally be doing this show for everybody. And I think that we may have a slight technical glitch on our very first show. So I want to try to see if I can resolve this issue really quickly. For some reason or another, I am not able to see any type of comments that folks are leaving off to the side because it says that this video is private, which we all know that it is not private because folks are actually coming in to view it. So bear with me. And these things are to be expected. Unfortunately, we've been having our share of technical glitches, and this thing is definitely public, and I'm not quite sure why that is doing what it's doing. I may have to try to bounce back and forth between the chat, which is not going to be a fun thing, but we may have to do that. So I'm actually pulling up YouTube right now, and I may have to bounce back and forth between these things. So it is interesting. It is interesting. I normally don't comment on this stuff, but I am going to comment on the fact that someone. Never mind. I'm not even going to take it there. Yeah, YouTube is playing games, Rush Die Hard, no doubt about it. For some reason, again, I can't see any comments within the interface that I actually use. It says that it's set to private when we know that that is not the case. Again, let me try to see if I can edit this thing a different way and see if that works. And I think I may have just solved the problem. We're going to wait for this thing to save and see whether that fixes the issue. And it's weird, super weird why that's doing that. Let's try that, see if that one will work. Nope, that does not work either. That is super weird why we are not able to, cannot save any changes at this time. Well, that's unfortunate and very disappointing. So we're going to have to bounce back and forth between these things. Someone just dropped a super chat, or that's a super sticker, Comic Book Emporium. I do believe that is Nick. I think that might be Nick, maybe with the name change. I'm not quite certain. But you guys are going to have to bear with me because, again, I don't have my my proper interface. So I'm going to have to toggle between screens here. But I want to welcome you guys to the very first episode of Comics Today. And this show is a little different from, I think, what we do on the Ready, Set, Go preview show. Similar, yet I think going to be different enough that it deserves its own little space. So I first want to talk about the name Comics Today. It is a little bit of a play, if you will, on words, or a play with words, because to some degree or another, we're going to be talking about comics that have come out today. A little bit, right? Because today is New Comic Book Day. So we're going to be talking about that. But we're also going to be talking about the state of comics today, as in our current environment. So we're going to be talking about news and current events and things like that. And we're also going to have some surprises. We're going to do things a little bit different, and you will see how that unfolds over the course of this live stream, but certainly as we move down the line and do more and more of these shows. You know, we are getting close to, I think it's like 90 some odd shows with the Ready, Set, Go preview show. That show has a format that I think that works. And we're hopefully going to find a rhythm and a methodology that works for this show as well. So I am going to go back to the YouTube machine because I do want to see the comments here. And I'm curious. I am curious because today is New Comic Book Day. I am curious, what comics did you guys pick up today? And of the comics that you picked up, that you've read, which comic is the one that rises to the surface for you. And again, I would normally throw these things up on screen, but I am unable to do that because of the technical issues that we have right now. So I'm definitely curious what people picked up. Comic Book Emporium, who dropped the super chat or the super sticker a little while ago, says he picked up 3 Jokers, issue number 3. So did I. And I'm curious what you thought about it. I actually thought that it was a pretty good read. I still think that issue number 1 was the best read of all, but I did enjoy issue number 3. I also enjoyed the covers that came along with all of them. But I did pick up that Red Hood cover, and I may show you guys some of the comics that I actually picked up today. DB, how you doing? He says that the LCS is too far away to make it there. Ian, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. So let me scroll down through some of the comments here. Now that 3 Jokers is over, was it worth it? You know, I enjoyed it. I really did. I think that the cover price was a little bit high, but it is a card stock cover to some degree or another. I actually thought that it was a well-done story. You know, it started off really, really hot. It kind of slowed down a little bit, but it was still, overall, in my opinion, it was still a pretty good read. So Mr. says, I didn't pick up anything yet, but I did help my LCS bag and board everything yesterday. Good man. Good man. That's what's up. My man Wheel says he picked up The Last Ronin, which is basically I guess a book that's been like, what, 30 years in the making or something like that. So The Last Ronin, he picked it up. He picked up 3 Jokers, Spawn, and then specifically the Spawn Chadwick Boseman tribute. That's definitely a dope cover. Well done with that one. Quest Dog, The Last Ronin, Batgirl 53 Jokers, and all of the timeless covers. There were a couple of them that came out today. I did not pick up a single one, but as we've spoken about before, I applaud those folks that are taking a proactive approach and actually picking up those Alex Ross covers in the present day, right? Versus waiting and regretting it later like I might. So let me scroll through a couple of the comments here. Ian says 3 Jokers was better than the Joker War in his opinion. Goose Fang says Justice League, Robin King, Rise of the New God, Batgirl, Batman Beyond Action. You picked up a lot of stuff there, bro. Scrolling down, Department of Truth is as good as it gets. Agree with you about the 3 Jokers, downhill from issue number 1. Still, Mill, good read, but issue number 1, that was incredible. The others did not quite live up to that same excitement, but were still good. I'm not disappointed that I picked it up. Let's put it that way. Scrolling down, somebody's asking, who is that? Dirt Tibiz is asking about Scumbag. I have not read it. I do know that folks were discussing Scumbag on the Instagram machine and Discord the other day, and people seem to enjoy it. I have not read it. My man L. Smith picked up The Last Ronin, 3 Jokers, Spawn, Justice League Dark. Kimball picked up Spawn 311. So it's good to see that everybody hit up the local comic shop today and picked up some stuff. And I'm going to tell you guys, I was not going to pick up this book right here. I was not going to pick up The Last Ronin at all. But I was in the comic shop. My guy had it, and I went ahead and snagged it. This right here is the 1 in 25 Last Ronin variant. I have not yet read it. I am looking forward to reading it. I am not a Turtle fan. I will tell you guys that. But my guy had it on the shelf, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take it because it is here, and I don't want to regret it later. So I went ahead and picked it up. Sometimes you have to show the LCS a little bit of love. And then I will show you one other cover that I picked up that I thought was really special. It is this one right here. The Batman 3 Jokers. This is the Red Hood cover. I thought that this cover was extremely striking, so I went ahead and snagged that one right there. So for those folks that may be coming in a little bit late, yes, this is a new segment that we are doing, a new show, if you will, called Comics Today. And it is a little bit of a play on words, if you will, because we're going to be talking about, to some degree or another, comics that have come out today, as in New Comic Book Day. But then we're also going to be talking about the state of comics today in lots of different ways by talking about news and current events and all that kind of stuff. And we're also going to have a few different curveballs. We're going to do things a little bit differently in this show, with the hope that you guys will enjoy the new format, and that with the belief that the format will continue to evolve and change over time. So let me bounce back to the chat real quick. Ariel says, love that cover. Tina's like, cool cover. Wes, like, Reggie got hit with the FOMO. You know, I don't know if I did. I don't know if it was a fear of missing out versus like, I might regret this one later because I'm here and it's not like I went out of my way to get it. I walked in, it was on the shelf, like right by the door. So I was like, you might as well just go right out the door. But I did. I picked it up. I picked up The Last Ronin, and I said that I wasn't going to get it. And then it was there, and I was there. And I was like, you know what? You're just going to go home with me. You're just going to go home with me, Last Turtle. So I did it. And, you know, I'm a big fan of, I try to be consistent. And when I'm not consistent, I will highlight that I am being inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? Ariel says, I snagged 2 regular covers at regular price and the 110. Yeah, my shop actually had an abundant number of copies on hand. I think that a lot of people had it on their pull list and had it reserved, but my guy did not seem to have an issue getting copies, and he had the 1 in 25 on the shelf as well as the 1 in 10. And my guess he had a lot of 1 in 10s as elsewhere, possibly in the back, possibly in his bin. But he had like half a long box, 3/4 of a long box of the three Jokers. So I think that that's a huge hit. I think that the one that I picked up, I think he only had like a couple of handfuls of this one left, but I dig this one. I really enjoy this cover right here. And I don't regret picking that Joker up at all. So Wheels says he was torn between Red Hood and the Fedora cover. Picked up the Fedora. Well done. Kingpin Comics is in the house. My man, Dennis, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Kimball says, my LCS has the 3 Jokers, 1 in 450. There's a 1 in 450? Typically, it's what, a 1 in 10, 1 in 25, 1 in 100, 1 in 500. I don't know anything about a 1 in 450. I don't know anything about that one, but $350. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I'm going to have to say nay. And I'm going to have to pass on that one. Joker says, I don't have a local comic shop near me, but I bought 2 copies online. Yes, it counts. If you spent money on New Comic Book Day and you bought comics, whether you have them in your possession or not, it still counts. My man, Mr. Comic 89 is in the house. Brother, it is good to see you. Thomas, Ed, and Tina all say that, yes, it counts. There you go. You now have confirmation from a handful of us that it still matters. All right. So I wanted to, Mr. Comic is asking me a question. And if I could throw it up on screen, I would. He asked me a question of, did I get an AF-15? What I would say to you, Mr. Comic, is what you just said in the comment section. It is on the wall. We have a firewall back there. We have AF-15, low grade 1.0, but she makes me happy. We have ASM1, ASM2, and ASM3. So that's a power corner over there. We have the Black Spider-Man statue from subscribers. Very appreciative of that statue. Oh, well, technically we have the black costume statue back there also from subscribers. So, and then that's just all like a Spider-Man wall. That whole corner literally is all Spider-Man. And that is a cool wall. That is a cool wall. And I've been staring at it like nonstop, I will tell you. All right. So big money wall. All right. So I said to him, I said, do you have a poor man's copy of AF-15? Because that is the copy that I need, because I am a poor man. So I will tell you guys again, we are doing some different stuff in this show. But one thing that will be consistent is that we are going to have some interactivity and we are going to have some fun. That is something that will not change whenever we do a live stream. So shout out to everybody that is here in the live stream that has hit the thumbs up button, certainly for all those individuals. All right. So in the second segment, first segment, I wanted to talk about new comics. We did a little bit of that. In this second segment, I want to talk about something that is in the news big time right now. There is a lot of news about this, and this one has actually been in the news for like 2 days constantly. There is a lot of excitement about this one, I think. And there were at least 5 or 6 people that as the news broke on day one that sent me multiple messages like, hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see this? And I will tell you, I am thankful for every one of those individuals that did that, because I will sometimes miss things. And so I would rather more people tell me about it than to have me miss it. So I am appreciative of all of those comic book soldier reporters out there that feed me information on a regular and consistent basis. I am very appreciative of each one of you. But the news that has broken is that they are moving forward with the Disney Plus streaming TV show for Moon Knight. And the Moon Knight people, they love some Moon Knight. They really do. And I've read some Moon Knight, and it's honestly not bad. But the true Moon Knight fans, they love some Moon Knight. And I think that they have been waiting for this day for quite some time. But in the news, it appears that they may have identified and may be negotiating with an actor to actually play the character of Moon Knight. And it is a guy by the name of Oscar Isaac. And this story actually broke a few days ago on Deadline. And some of the stuff is, we don't know whether they have truly landed on him, whether this is a plant or something like that. But the news is out there. Deadline is a respectable, I think, news outlet. So I wanted to acknowledge this. And what's fascinating is I did not know who this actor was. I did not know who Oscar Isaac was. I'll be completely honest with you. But I did some research and I reached out to a couple of comic book soldiers and I was like, tell me about this guy. So what I have learned based upon my research and also the opinions of others we'll talk about is that this guy has actually been involved with like comics and comic related stuff going back since like 2015. So it's been a couple of years that he's been messing around with some of our properties, and he has a long track record. He's been in a lot of movies, and I was actually surprised that I did not know his face or know his name, but because he's been in a lot of stuff. And he actually played possibly not the highlight of his career. He played Apocalypse in the X-Men movie in 2016. He in 2015, 2017, and 2019 was in Star Wars, in various movies for Star Wars over a 3-year period. And then he is also going to be in the upcoming Dune movie that is supposed to be coming out in 2021. And this is a photo of him up here on screen next to my man, Moon Knight right there. So people are very excited about this actor. And again, we don't know whether he has signed anything. It seems like they are having some discussions. And I'm actually let me pull this thing up to, I'm actually going to share my screen one more time because I want to show you guys the news article itself. Let me see if I can get the right one. So this is the news article itself. Moon Knight Oscar Isaac tapped to star in Marvel and Disney Plus streaming service. And again, I don't know if he's truly been tapped, but it says with his time in the Star Wars franchise coming to an end, Oscar sets his sights on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Deadline is hearing he is in negotiations to star as the title character in Moon Knight, the Marvel and Disney Plus series based on the comic book hero. And so what's interesting is that Jeremy Slater, the person that was basically that developed and wrote the Netflix series The Umbrella Academy, is also going to be the showrunner for the Moon Knight series on Disney Plus. And so because I wasn't all that familiar with this guy, I decided to reach out to a few folks. And I reached out to some folks that are more knowledgeable about movies than I. And the first was my man, Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy. And his comment to me was, he is going to kill the role. He's been in movies like Drive and The Most Violent Year, so he can deliver the dark mental aspects of the Moon Knight character. He goes on, Pretty Fly says, I'm not sure how far Disney will take that, being that it's on Disney Plus. He says, however, with a high caliber character like Oscar and with Kevin Feige's involvement, he smells a movie crossover. And that is something that has actually been touched on in the past. Kevin Feige has actually said it himself that he sees there being some interplay between the TV shows and also the movies. So we could see crossover of this great actor from the small screen to the big screen and vice versa, right? So pretty cool stuff. And I also spoke to Philly Born. Philly Born is another Patreon member, and his comment to me was, I'm thinking that Oscar has a dark edge to him, which he didn't see with Poe. And I honestly don't know who Poe was. I'm gonna be honest with you. He says if he gets in tune with Moon Knight, he can identify with him and his disabilities, and he can bring a darker persona to Moon Knight. That is my hope. So shout out to both Philly Born 215C and Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy for lending me some insight into a character and to more specifically an actor that I really did not know very much about. So the other thing that I wanted to mention with regard to Moon Knight was that I told you guys that there were like 2 days, if you will, of news. And the second day, what actually broke was this. They have identified a director. So this guy, Muhammad, I don't know a ton about him because I don't know directors and actors, as I've already demonstrated. This guy is, I think he's an Egyptian filmmaker. I don't know much about him, but it appears that he is actually going to possibly be the director for the Moon Knight series on the Disney Plus streaming service. I think he's done some independent stuff, and you kind of see that Marvel likes to pick up these indie type of directors, and so this is very much in line with what they do. So this story broke on October 27th, so we'll see again how much truth there is in this stuff as time moves on. But I think the overriding point here is that we are moving forward with actually bringing Moon Knight to the small screen and possibly to the large screen as well. So I want to bounce back to the comment section here and see if you guys are talking about this. So it says, Evan says, honestly, I won't be surprised if the casting and directing choice is a rumor. Well, I'm curious, what makes you say that? Because I don't disagree. Trust me when I tell you, I do not disagree with that. But I'm curious, what makes you think that it may actually just be a rumor? Scrolling through, wonder if we will see all of Mr. Moon Knight's persona as Adam. That's actually a good thing, right? I mean, a good question. I think people are curious as to how far they are going to take his different personas, what could possibly be mental instability. It'll be interesting to see what path they choose to pursue with this character, given that it is on the Disney Plus streaming service. So it'll be very interesting to see how they play that out. And one of the things that Pretty Fly actually talked about was that it would be great if they explored some of those darker things, but they might have to put some controls in place in order to put parental blocks up for some of that edgier stuff that is on Disney versus just allowing it to be completely open as it might be right now. So scrolling down to some of the comments here. Has there ever been a Moon Knight, Dark Knight crossover? Asked Kimball. I honestly don't know. There may be some other folks in there that might be able to answer it. My man Philly Born is here. He says Moon Knight could be Daredevil for Disney. I'm sorry. Yeah, like Daredevil was for Netflix, in his opinion. I'm going to be honest with you, brother. I'm hoping that we see Daredevil and Moon Knight on the small screen and also on the big screen, along with Punisher and some of the defenders, not all of the defenders, but some of the defenders. To me, put them all on the small screen. I want to be able to see them all. All right. So scrolling down through some of the comments, I think that people are obsessed about the cards and the bins that are sitting off to my side. If someone is truly curious about the storage bins, make sure you send me a message and I will be able to answer all of the questions that you might have about how I choose to store some of my comics here in the room. So let's go ahead and just take that one off the table. All right. So that was segment 2. I wanted to spend some time talking about Moon Knight because that is, I think, a hot topic of conversation right now. So I wanted to make sure that I covered off on that one. In this next segment, I wanted to take some time to talk about data. And if you've been a subscriber of my channel for any length of time, you know that I talk about data a lot, right? I used to do the market updates, which was how is the market of comics actually performing? We talk about all different kinds of things because I personally believe that we are in a fantastic place in time right now in that we have access to so much data. We literally have data at our fingertips. And this is in comparison to how things used to be in the 90s when I used to collect comics, when you had to wait a month for a wizard to come out to kind of know what prices were. And then not all the books that you were looking up were actually in the wizard, right? And so we are very fortunate right now to have access to so much information. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Comic-Con to be able to see what is happening with sales of books from Diamond to the LCSs, whether you're talking about the CGC or the CBCS census data, or whether you're talking about the various apps that are actually out there. There is a ton of information at our fingertips. And these are all topics that I have explored at various times here on the channel. And just recently, I spent some time talking about pricing guides. And this was a question that actually came up repeatedly from people. And I finally answered it. I want to say it was September 14th of this year. It was a video that I released called Best Comic Book Pricing Guide. And I want to play a short clip for you guys from that video that I released back in September. The question that I have been asked consistently by people is, why does the price of a comic appear differently here versus there versus this other place? And I've had a lot of people ask this question using different types of words. But at the end of the day, what people are essentially trying to do is to figure out what their comic is worth and why different pricing services provide different values for those comics. And I think people are really confounded by this because they're like, the book is what the book is, right? Raw or graded. The grade is what it is. The condition is what it is. There should be a price. And I do not disagree with that. I do not disagree with that at all. But if you think about it, a lot of things have prices that are different depending upon where you look for them. If you look for a house value, for example, if you look on a Redfin versus another site, you will find different values for that house. If you look for the price and the value of a car, Kelly Blue Book will have a price and somebody else will have a different price. The fact that there are different prices and values for something is not unique to comics, right? It is not unique in any way, shape, or form. There are different ways that values are determined. And based upon the site or the service that you're using, they use different formulas and calculations so as to arrive at a price. A house, a car, yes, much more expensive. Maybe not always much more expensive than a comic, but the logic still holds true. So again, that was a video that was released several weeks ago. And essentially what I'm talking about in that video is, why is there like conflicting data between the different pricing services, between the apps, between when you go look for something, why does it not all say the same stuff? And there are valid reasons for why that happens. But I don't want to take credit for this. But that video and maybe others have inspired a blog post that we actually released earlier today on regiecollects.com. And I actually want to share that blog post with you guys. It is called It's in the Numbers Part 2, a case study in conflicting data. And this thing actually says here, if you use data to determine whether or not a certain comic is worth buying at a specific point, you will notice quickly that different price guides, which use different data for their pricing services, will oftentimes provide different values for the exact same book. Most of the time, those values will fall into a similar range. However, there are always outliers, particularly when dealing with more obscure or less frequently traded comic books. And this blog post that was actually released earlier today on regiecollects.com was actually written by my next guest, and that is my man, Doug. Doug wrote this for us. Doug, it is good to see you. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great, Reggie. Excited to be on the show. Thanks.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you making time to actually join me on this very first show. And I also appreciate all of the wonderful content that you have been writing for the last several months for me to put up on the website. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Reggie.
So I wanted to have you on here because I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the blog post, because I think that there are some things in there, some learnings that people may be able to take away. And so there are folks that probably haven't yet read it, but I definitely want them to read it. But I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about what it was that motivated you to write this blog post, this case study, and to share it with people?
Yeah, I think that part of it was just when I go out and look for different comic books, whether it's online or in person, and trying to figure out, what's the right price. And as you highlighted in the blog post, a lot of times that's really similar, but sometimes it's really different. And I've had that happen a couple of times where, there's like an obscure second print of a comic that one price guide lists at a few dollars, and then a key collector app has it for $125. So really, really wide variety in the pricing.
Do you see that with graded books, with raw books, or do you see it occur with both? And then how often do you actually see it happen where you notice it?
So I notice it more with raw books, but that's probably partially because I tend to buy raw books more. And I think also with graded books, if you're using Go Collect as a resource, which is great, and that might not be as current with some of the newer prices popping up, unless you're looking at individual sales. You can still notice it with sold data on eBay. So it probably exists with both, but I notice it a lot with certain raw books.
There you go. And that's super helpful to kind of put that in a little bit of context for folks. In the article, you spent some time talking about several different resources. Can you cover off on the resources that you tend to go to help you to reconcile some of the conflicting data that you may actually find?
Yeah, definitely. With raw books, I generally start with Comics Price Guide because they have a large data sample that they're using. But because I find it a little slow in adjusting to some of these newer spec or hotter books, I will use Key Collector for that. So Key Collector is kind of like the second source that I check after Comics Price Guide. But I'll also then sometimes check Go Collect, even though they're graded books. It's just good to get a check. If you see a raw book that seems to be relatively low, but you think it's a key and it's worth something, it's probably worth checking Go Collect to see if in higher grade there's a big disparity. And I do check sold prices on eBay. Yep. And those tend to be my major resources.
Yep. And when you use Key Collector app, are you using it for pricing, or are you using it for the purpose of verifying the significance of a book, or both?
More verifying the significance, but sometimes both, because, you know, when you get that book that seems really low in say on Comics Price Guide, but there's a huge disparity with Go Collect, it at least lets me know that, okay, there's a significant data gap here. And whether that price is exact or not, I can probably find out a little bit more of that through eBay sales, and sometimes Go Collect also.
Yep. See, I mean, I'm a big fan of doing what you're talking about, which is I use all of the available data to make myself a little bit more informed. And I say that because you have Go Collect, which I think is great. Go Collect is graded books. That's it. And I mean, yes, it is CBCS and it is CGC. It is the two largest slices of the pie, but it's just graded books. I like Comics Price Guide for raw books. But like you said, I don't know how often they update the site. I have a feeling that they update it regularly, but they have over a million comics in that database. So it's a great resource to go to, but it doesn't give you what Go Collect gives you, which is the individual sales data so that you can check the timeliness of the dollar amount that you are seeing, right? Those are two big differences. I like Key Collector app to help me to determine the significance of a book. And I do pay attention to the pricing that's in there, but it's important to remember with the pricing, and I think you know this, it is a rolling 3-month average of eBay, right? So it is not like up to the moment, it's a rolling 3-month average. So it's not a pricing service, but it lets you know to some degree, is it a $3 book or is it a $30 book? And sometimes, again, you're just collecting data for the purpose of being able to triangulate, is this an important book that has some value? You're not using any one of those data points as like your definitive thing. It's more of a triangulation. Would you agree with that? Would you modify anything that I just said there?
No, I agree with it, because it really does hit the point that there isn't just one value of a comic. You know, ultimately the value is what someone will pay for it. So,
that's legit. But for me, if I'm not selling it, it's like, do I put it in Mylar or polybag? Do I put it in this box or that box way over there down in the basement? You know, for me, it's like, if it's not being sold and I'm keeping it, how well do I need to treat this book? You know?
Yep.
So I'm curious. Do you sell a lot of books, or are most of your books like just personal collection books? I'm curious.
I have been selling more recently. I collected when I was young, and then started selling when I wasn't collecting as much. And then when I got back into collecting, pretty much earlier in the year when the pandemic hit, I started buying and selling a lot more regularly to have my selling kind of pay for the hobby.
I respect that, brother. Part of the reason why I'm asking that question is because I'm curious whether you do the work we just talked about every single time for every book, or if there are special circumstances wherein when you go to the Go Collect and the Key Collector app and the Comics Price Guide and the Chromicon, right? Is it every single book, or is there a certain trigger that prompts you to go through that triangulation of value?
Yeah, so it's definitely not every single book. There are certain books that I collect that I'm familiar with the values because I buy them enough. So then I'm comfortable not checking as much. When I'm out at a shop and I don't want to be there very long, then I might just hit like Comics Price Guide or Go Collect quickly. When I'm buying something online, like on eBay, then I'll take my time and do more research. And that's where the example in the blog post that I focused on heavily were a couple of Sandman variants, because I collect Sandman, but I'm not really a variant collector. So I was wading into waters that, you know, I'm not as comfortable in. So when I'm not as comfortable, that's when I really start to dig into the different data that's available.
Yep. One of the things that I'm also curious about is because we have access to so much information, whether it's Comicron, the various apps, the various websites, all of just the information that flows to us. Do you think that there is a potential for folks to get analysis paralysis? And for those people that don't know what that is, it's a book that was written a while ago that I read many moons ago, Moon Knight, right? Many moons ago. And the idea here was that people can be presented with so much information that they essentially become paralyzed by the amount of information that they can tap into. And because of that, because it becomes overwhelming, they just check out and they make no decision because they feel like they are unable to make a decision. So I'm curious, how do you avoid analysis paralysis? Is that something that you think about? Are there tips that you could offer people to avoid them from being confronted with so much data and not being able to move forward?
Yeah, definitely. It happens. And I think knowing which data sources are the most important for what you're buying is helpful. Like if you're buying graded books, use Go Collect. If you have access to the recent sales, don't just look at the FMV, look at that.
Yes.
If you don't have access, then look at the recent sales on eBay, because you pointed out pretty much the same data. If for raw books, Comics Price Guide, Key Collect. So if you keep it limited and focused as much as you can, I think that helps.
Yep.
And that comes with the knowledge of knowing what the best data is and which resources are best. I think a great way to avoid it is to go into your purchase kind of being comfortable making a mistake. Like if you're so worried that you're going to overpay on any single book that you're just not going to buy it, then it's going to kind of kill the hobby for you. So don't be so scared. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to buy a book and then find it cheaper later, and that's okay. But I think the second part of that that's really important is always buy within your means. Whether that's if it's going to hurt you to make a mistake with $100 purchase, then don't make that purchase. If you're okay within $1,000 purchase, then that's okay for you. And if you know your means and you stick within them and you're okay making that mistake, then you won't be paralyzed by the choice.
There you go. And I can be honest with you. I don't think that there's a collector among us who has not made a mistake. And you will kick yourself if you've made a mistake. But an education is sometimes expensive. Yep. You have to pay for your education. And sometimes you pay in the form of making mistakes that hopefully you don't make again. That's not to say you won't make other mistakes, right? But I think that advice that you just gave, that's some solid advice. I didn't know what you were going to say when I asked that question, but I'm so glad that I asked it because the answer was spot on. This blog post that we just looked at here a few moments ago, this is part 2 in a 3-part series that you've been working on. Can you give folks, as we wrap up here, a preview into what the next part, the next installment will actually look like?
Yeah, it's actually my favorite. I touch on in the first 2 the anchoring effect, but don't go into a lot of detail. And the third post is all about that. And without going into too much detail, the anchoring effect is a psychology term. And it's something that we all experience, whether we're aware of it or not, especially when making purchases. And that is that we tend to become anchored to the first bit of information or data that we're exposed to. So in comic terms, if you look at one price guide and you see the value of a book at, say, a near mint condition, $25, your tendency from that point on is to assume that anytime you see a book less than $25, it's a good deal. And anytime you see it more than $25, it's a bad deal. And that may not be the case. So it's a really important thing to be aware of. And it's a really cool concept and, also affects our lives more than just comic collecting, which is one of the reasons I like your channel, because I think you hit that a lot.
Brother, and that's the thing, is that's why I enjoy your writing, because Yeah, we're talking about comics, but we're talking about so much more than comics. If you want to get that, you can get some more out of it, you know? And it's like I read your post and I'm like, and sometimes I'll even say it to you, I'm like, this is really smart. Like it's just really smart stuff that I enjoy reading. And we honestly do on ReggieCollects.com on the blog post. There are some really awesome blog posts that are being put up there every single week. Doug is just one of those guys that's putting up some awesome content. You can see his Instagram scrolling across the bottom of the screen right there. Doug, as we wrap up, can you give people like a 20-second overview as to who you are? Can you talk a little bit about that and share that with people?
20 seconds is tough. You know, we all wear lots of different hats, and you know, my favorite is a father to my 15-year-old son. I was a syndicated newspaper cartoonist for about 15 years, so I've worked in the industry, just in a different part of the industry, and I also have a career in public health, and I have to use data all the time for that. So that's a little tiny snippet of who I am.
Well done, sir. I want to thank you again. Like when we talked earlier today, I want to thank you for everything that you do in public and also behind the scenes for me. I absolutely appreciate your friendship and again, all of the wonderful content. And thank you for joining me on the very first episode of Comics Today.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here and have fun with you, especially on this first episode. Thanks, Reggie.
Thank you, bud. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Definitely.
All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little segment there. Doug is an awesome guy. He is literally putting out some fantastic content on my website every single week. I think there are like 4 or 5 blog posts that are up there from him and Scott and Ariel, a couple of other guys. So if you have an opportunity to head over to the website, I would definitely encourage you. Once you get to ReggieCollects.com, you basically scroll down towards the bottom, and all of the blog posts are there and available to you. All right. As a quick reminder, as we wrap up the show, I want to let you guys know again that this is the Go Collect giveaway book for this week. It is Detective Comics issue number 314, a really, really cool cover and comic from 1963. It is a it's an 8.5 with off-white pages. This book could be yours simply by watching the various videos that are released from the channel. And all of the videos have been basically or will be released essentially between Monday and Friday. We release pre-recorded videos at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. And as always, we do have a couple of live shows that we do. I want to head over real quick to the chat here real quick to kind of see if there's anything that is going on, and then we will keep it moving. So Dave says, Doug is a smart, good dude. As his brother, I might be biased. Yes, Dave, I think that you are indeed biased. And by saying that, there is an implication that you too are a smart, good dude, which I don't doubt, because Doug honestly is a very good guy. I really do enjoy him. What is this? Pretty Fly says Doug should have his diploma slabbed. I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I spent a lot of money getting my MBA diploma mounted, and it's a big diploma. It is sitting wrapped up in brown paper wrap and has been probably for like 5 years. It is behind my workbench in the basement. And then my undergraduate diploma, I have no clue where that is. So at least Doug has his up on the wall. I don't even have that one. Let me scroll through some of the comments here real quick. Doug, your brother is definitely a plant, my friend. He is definitely a plant. Let me scroll through the comments here. Love having a Wednesday show, says Milt. We are definitely going to continue moving it forward, man. There are so many other things that I want to do during this Wednesday show. My hope is that people will continue to tune in, and we will continue to bring pretty cool stuff, like having different types types of guests on the show to entertain you guys and to bring a different perspective. There is so much that I want to do, so just bear with me as we continue to kind of work our way through this stuff. But I want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of your Wednesday with me. I hope that you enjoyed this show. And as a reminder, we do have the Ready, Set, Go preview show, which is still going to happen this coming Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. During that show, we will be giving away that awesome Detective Comics book that we just looked at. And then I'll also be showing you guys the other book that is going to be given out this next week. So I want to thank you guys. And again, if you need me, feel free to reach out to me in one of two ways: on Instagram at Regie Collects, or you can send me an email to Regie@regiecollects.com. Take care, and I'll see you next Wednesday.